Welcome to a Calvinian architecture. Today I'm reading from the fourth octave, the fourth chapter. The name of the city is Bauci, and this constitutes the very center of the book, divided into two equal parts on either side of Bauci, as was Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities, which this book, A Calvinian Architecture, is a kind of response to. Verse 1 is my translation of Bauci. Verse 2 is a story of a journey, and verse 3 is a story of somewhere that I wanted to live or something I wanted to buy to live in. Verse 2. At the end of William Street, right at the very end, there was the railway line that went from Flinders Street Station to Sandringham. It seemed such a long way from home, but it was really only 2 or 3 blocks away. We'd hear the trains on foggy winter mornings muttering away at the end of the street, as well as all the ships' foghorns, slowly sounding their way up the bay to Port Melbourne, or going the other way, leaving once again for the world outside. There was a railway underpass down there at the end of William Street, made of grey cement, where we kids would shelter from the rain and wind, sometimes after school. We'd lean with our backs against the thick walls, look up and feel those rumbling carriages just overhead, hear the whine of the electrical surge through their wheels. Some kids would shut their eyes, though I never did. Well, that's where I ran away to when I was given 10 minutes to find my father's penna stilografica, a black fountain pen with gold embossed trimmings, with which he'd write letters addressed in a flourishing script. He was convinced I'd lost it, and I didn't bother to defend myself. It seemed useless, so after 10 minutes, I left home. I carried with me 3 books I bought in Trieste. With a single coin I'd managed to keep each time I was sent to do the shopping, though it was hardly shopping. This was a typical list. A large spoonful of marmellata, usually strawberry jam. 50 grams of lard, 50 grams of sugar, 50 grams of butter, 1 large tomato, 1 large potato, 1 tablespoonful of dried tomato paste. That was it. The spoonfuls were smeared onto wax paper and rolled up tightly. One day, on the floor of the grocery, I found very tightly rolled, more tightly than the lard, a 5,000 lira note. It was Easter, and with it we managed to have lamb, roast potatoes and peas for Easter Sunday lunch. Anyway, the change from the daily shopping didn't amount to much, as you can imagine, but over the months I managed to save enough to buy the following books: Daniel Defoe's The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, Swift's Gulliver's Travels, and Le Mie Prigioni, My Prisons, by Silvio Pellico, an Italian patriot and hero of the resistance against the Austro-Hungarian Empire during the 1915-18 war. One account in there of how his leg was amputated without anaesthetic so that he could be saved from the gangrene that was ravaging his body particularly fascinated me. So these were the 3 books I packed in the bag. They had tooth marks all over them, especially The Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, because my sister had taken them to bed one night and chewed them up. In any case, they were still my most precious possessions, so I took these with me and proceeded to sit in there, under the underpass, reading Le Mie Prigioni till it got dark. Then I moved under a streetlight. About 9 p.m. my sister appeared and told me the pen had been found in my father's work bag. We walked back without a word being said, but as we entered the gate, she briefly held my hand. I'd been thinking, meanwhile, about the difference between penna stilografica and fountain pen. Why stilografica? I didn't like that word much. It implied that writing was all about style and gesture, legibility and flourish. I didn't trust that. And fountain pen? This word implied to me a lack of control, as though as soon as it was picked up, the pen would burst its load of ink in a fantail-like sprout, dramatically ending the writer's good intentions. Which meaning did I prefer? Neither, I concluded. I've never used the penna stilografica fountain pen since that July day in 1958 when, walking back through the gate, I began to fantasize about ink blotches, scratchy, jagged marks, fantail ink spurts spreading over pristine paper from a lethal little black machine, innocuously disguised as a pen, but spewing forth suddenly many thousands of inky accidents, crowding away all meaning, extinguishing all mellifluous tones, deleting all style from all the yet unwritten letters of the world, leaving only pure, clear, unrepentant intent. Verse 3. The day before I went to America, to Boston in 1997, I read the ad in The Age, and it was deceptively simple, like 2 lines. Probably because the 90-mile beach doesn't seem to appeal to anyone very much. But I read all of those ads, and this said 2 blocks, one with a caravan on it, and an electricity pole like the builders put up on job sites. 5 minutes walk from 90 Miles Beach for $13,000. I realised later I could have got it for $12,000, I'm sure, but anyway, I went round to her house, and yes, she did want to sell it and could do it now, today. Do you want to buy it? She asked. I got scared then somehow. I left it too late. Travelled for 2 months, went to Boston, etc. All the time with it on my mind. Came back, called that very night, and her boyfriend said, "She sold it only yesterday, mate, only last night." So the span of my absence covered that time exactly. Advertised the day before my departure, then sold the day before my return. This much was clear. It was meant for me. It was meant for me. Clearly, I still think about that double block on the 90 Miles Beach. I have to let go of it. Tomorrow is the 4th octave, the 5th chapter, Leandra. The keynote is Fa and the colour is green. It was meant for me. Until tomorrow.